For a couple of times last year, I tried my best to keep my heart rate below 130 beats per minute. To be honest, that's actually still what I'm trying to do till now. But for some reason, there are just certain events that makes it lose control. So in this video, I want to break down one specific event where my heart was totally caught off guard. Coming right up. Hey y'all, Aman here, and you're watching Heart Limits. So, what was this specific event that caught my heart off guard? So, last year, there was this party that was being held by my wife's family on her father's side. And it was an interesting event, and it was in some ways stressful for me because of three things. First of all, is that I wasn't that good in speaking French yet at that time. Actually, to be honest, till now, I still don't find myself that good in speaking French. But besides the point. So I was in a situation where I'm going to be speaking with people who just speak French, barely any English whatsoever. So I was already in that scenario where, oh my God, I really need to, try to be as good and proficient as I can with that little French that I knew. So with that alone, I was stressed. Second, I wanted to have a good first impression. And since I said the word first, because a lot of the people who are going to this party, I've never met before. So of course, given that, I'm married to, their technically cousin or their niece or whatever you want to call her, given, it's part of the family anyway. So I wanted to create a good first impression, but how can I do that if with the number one, I'm not that good in speaking French, so maybe I might just look like a person who's quite dumb, so I was stressed with that. And third, I was also stressed because they heard the idea that, oh, so your husband has gotten into, vlogging and he has a YouTube channel, so they wanted me to in some way, film and take photos of the event. But besides the point, that was the scenario and the situation where I was, okay? So of course you'd be saying, well, it's kind of expected, right? Given that you're stressed with all these three things, wouldn't that technically make you be stressed at this situation? Well, the funny thing is, it wasn't even because of that specific instance. So me explaining to you this event is actually just explaining the scenario of the whole thing, right? So what happened was, one of my wife's cousins is pretty good in chess. And I didn't really know his level of chess at the time. So he asked me, hey, Nash, do you want to, play a game of chess? And me being a competitive person, and I'm like, no harm. I love chess and everything anyway. I used to be part of the chess club. So, I had this feeling like I shouldn't lose that bad or that quickly or anything, right? So we played the first match. What happened was, in the first match, I lost in 10 moves. So in my mind, I was already like, oh, he knows that move style. So that means he actually has a pretty good experience in chess and he must be pretty good. So from that instance, I was already in competitive mode. And I was in a situation where I'm like, oh my, I really don't want to lose. And it was interesting because I don't know if the cousin of my wife just wanted to say, just to say in a good way, oh, I know you were just, trying me out, you weren't playing serious with me. But to be honest, I was actually quite serious on the first round. I just did not expect, and I forgot that 10 move scenario thing. So I'm like, oh my, alright. So when we started the second match, so of course I agreed to a rematch, and also I wanted a rematch. So when we played the second match, I became ultra competitive. And as I am, I used to be active in a couple of sports, and anything that has to do with competition, I'm totally in for it. I had the confidence that nothing should be wrong with me. I'm used to the stress of being in a competitive atmosphere. There were people who were starting to watch because the game was in some way becoming quite intense. But for me, in that scenario, I'm like, I should be fine, I just stay calm. I have to think of my moves properly. So in my mind, everything was fine. But what happened was the game was so tight that it came to a point where I was so stressed out that what if it figures out what I am planning next? So in that specific instance, what really freaked me out was I could feel my heart beating so hard that it really made me look at my watch, which basically records my heart rate. And when I took a look at my heart rate, this one totally blew my mind. My heart rate was at 160 beats per minute. And in that instance, I was in some way freaking out. But of course, I didn't want to show myself freaking out because some of the people in the party know that I'm being careful with my heart rate. So I didn't want to, in some way make a scene. So I just tried my best to stay calm, forget the scenario and everything in my mind, and just go blank. And I was really kind of worried of the scenarios. And when my wife came close to me, I told her about my heart rate, and she's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll be fine. It's okay." the plastic smiling face. And then when the game finished, I have to say I was lucky. I actually defeated him on the second match. But when he asked me to do a rematch, it's like a decision round. Since he won the first, I won the second. I had to say no just because I had to make some excuse. Like, oh, maybe we have to start helping some people in the party. I need to take some photos, some videos. But in reality, it was more because I was concerned of how my heart was reacting in that scenario. So, I must say, there are certain events that, seemingly seem normal. It's like, for me, in my mind, chess shouldn't be that stressful. But I have to say, there are some games that even though they might seem, not life-threatening or not that stressful, they actually could be in some way depending on how you approach it. So remember, if ever you are highly competitive, try to compose yourself. So, once again, Aman here, and you're watching Heart Limits. Now, I know some events seem to always catch you off guard. To be honest, at some point, even when I was just hurrying on my way to go to French class, I realized that my heart rate was already out of control. Just because I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna be late. Because I hate being late. So be conscious and be aware that especially if you have some form of heart problem, try to always stay calm. Take things differently, approach things differently. Because who knows, what if something normal can actually become life-threatening? So, once again,